Good evening, everyone. This is the Inspire Wellbeing team here for another inspirational chat. Tonight we've got Carl Andrews, Susan Gardner, and Ryan Smith. Give them a wave, everybody. So, tonight's topic, we are going to be talking about whether or not we have the courage to be disliked. And I would say that intentionally it comes from a fear of being disliked, which, as most things have, has got its own little phobia called autophobia. But having the courage to be disliked is freedom from fake ego. So we accept ourselves as we are without the need for likes from others. Where do you think that leaves you then, Susan?
Well, it was certainly something that I really struggled with in my youth. And I was, contemplating this earlier today when thinking about, when were the times when I used to squirm and try to people please because I knew that something I'd said or the way that I looked, or so I thought, had pressed someone else's buttons, and to the extent where, they made it very clear that they didn't like me. And that really hurt. Oh, that hurt my little girl. And it's something which over the years I've learned, the bigger picture about it, and that actually I think one of the turning points was on a presentation course, funnily enough, where I learned that 30% of the audience don't like you if you're the speaker, let's say, and 30% of the audience couldn't care less what you were talking about, and the other 30% really loved you.
And what about the other 10?
Good point.
They've all gone to toilet.
They're sitting on the fence. Yeah. So, when I learned those sort of facts, it just made sense. Actually, why am I worrying about 60%, maybe 80% of people, when actually it's these people where we're resonating and we've got vibes, and I feel good in their company. I'm just wasting energy with the others. But yes, it took a long time for me to really appreciate that. I would say up until quite recently. So that's my take on it.
And as we get older, we have to learn to let it go, don't we?
Absolutely. Let it go. Yes.
Yeah. Ryan, what do you think?
I was going to start singing then, but nobody needs to hear that. That's the one. Nobody needs to hear that. For many, 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 many years, I tried putting other people first, and even up until recently, I put other people first in front of my wife and things like that, and other things. It's got me into like sticky situations and whatnot. And it all stems from a kid. I mean, one of the things, I grew up with a lot of brothers and sisters fighting for that attention, fighting to please everybody and do different things, and it was a bit of a tough one, and it's affected both my mental and social aspects, where I'd try and put myself a little bit thin, try and say, yeah, I can do that, yeah, I can do that, yeah, I can do that, and try and make everybody happy. And I was missing the key person there. So those days I was tired and worn out, and it was awful. Although everybody else was happy around me, I wasn't. And you know what? That's not right. So there's a few background story to a bit further on that, but I'm not going to go down that route. But last year I've come out of counselling, and one of the questions he did ask me, and I think this is why we're talking about this subject tonight, is the courage to be disliked. And he says, have you ever thought about just having people just dislike you? And I'm like, no, that's not who I am. And there's something that he said to me, and I've found the quote here, which is, your happiness cannot be blamed on your past or your environment, and it isn't that you lack competence, you just lack the courage. One might say you are lacking the courage to be happy.
I like that.
And there was that. And then he put me onto a book which is called The Courage to be Disliked. And it's a game changer. It really is a game changer. I advise anybody to have a read of it. It just opens up your eyes. And that's where the quote comes from, is that book. And there's a lot more in there, but I'm not going to go through them. But it's having that, for me, it's having that courage to say, do you know what? I'm going to put myself first, and I don't give a damn what you think about me. You know, if I'm going to be happy, as long as it's legal, as long as what I do is right, I'm causing no harm to everybody else, then do you know what? It's me. I'm number one. I'm first. And that's what people need to be doing in this whole corona situation as well. Yeah, I get we need to help the neighbours out and everything, but first of all, you need to put yourself first and just be happy and have the courage to say, do you know what? I'm putting myself first.
Brilliant. Yeah. Carl?
I'm listening to this, and I'm sat and I'm thinking that's really brave, but I'm the other side of the fence on this. I'm that person that goes out of the way to please other people. Now, I don't know why I do that, because I'm one of them people. If somebody doesn't like me, I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered about being liked by people, but I want to be that person that people can rely on. So if somebody has a favour to ask, or I don't know, 9 times out of 10, if somebody misses the last bus and it's on a Friday night, who are they going to call? They'll phone Carl, because they know that Carl will come and pick them up. And I'll come and pick them up because I don't want to let people down. I had a manager that I worked for a few years ago, and with him, I couldn't let him down. Like, the way that he asked you to do stuff was in such a way that you weren't doing it because he was your boss and he was telling you what to do. I was doing it because I didn't want to let him down.
So was he a manipulator? Did he?
No. He was a thoroughly nice bloke, and I think that's why I wanted to. I wasn't bothered whether he liked me or not. There was something in my head about letting that person down.
But what would happen if you did? Did you then think he wouldn't like you?
I don't know. I never
And
went down that road.
You never went down that road of actually doing it, did you? There's almost a fear there.
Yeah, you're right. It's a fear. It's a fear of what could happen, and I can't contextualize what that might be, but it's almost like you just don't want to let anybody down at any cost. So,
okay. But listen to what you just said there. That was about at any cost, even to you. And that's where Ryan was coming from, because initially it's at a cost of ourselves. I will speak to clients and say, okay, just how far down the list are you? If you're putting your partner and kids and parents and family members and pets and so on, just how far down the list would you go? And I was running the men's group one night, and one of the guys said, well, I've been I've been shopping to Asda before I came here, and I'd actually put everybody who was in Asda before me. By the time we'd finished the session, he didn't, but he did when he walked in. So this courage to be disliked, where does it come from for me? Like with Susan, I would go back to school, and I never felt like I fitted in anywhere. Most of my friends were in like the level B, because we were divided into A's, B's and C's, and I was in the top group, but most of that was lads, which was great in physics, because that meant I'd always got, there was me and 28 blokes did physics, which was great, but I never felt like I fitted in. And I moulded myself into what I thought I should be. And I did it all through my youth. I know that I can speak quite truthfully and say that I never felt even like my mother liked me, never mind anybody else. And if I couldn't even call on her, who could I call on? Consequently, as time went on, I think it was one of the reasons that I found training as a counsellor so important, because it did such a lot of work for me. And I remember working with a guy one week, and he'd come for an information session, and he was quite arrogant, and he'll admit that now because he's still a client of mine. But at the time he said to me, "I bet you think you're the best counsellor in Derbyshire, don't you?" I said, "No, but I think I'm the right one for you." 7.5 years I've been working with him. So I must have been right on that score. But have I now got the courage to be disliked? Too right I have. It would be great if you liked me. But you know what? If you don't, I'm fine with that too. It doesn't matter. There are people in my life that do, and I'm sure that there are some people in the very outer skirts of my life who don't. But we manage without them, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in my situation, you're that person that wants to be a pleaser.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the disappointment on somebody else's shoulders of you not delivering?
Because you're not there to deal with their thoughts, their feelings and their behaviour. That's not your responsibility. You're responsible for what you think, what you feel and how you behave. You don't sit comfortably there, do you?
No.
I can tell by your face.
No, I don't know if it's because I've grown up and my dad was somebody that pleased people. I don't know if it's been instilled in me from a young age. If you tell someone you're going to do something, you do it.
That's different, I think. Saying that we're going to just do, that's about keeping a promise to somebody, isn't it? That's integrity.
It is integrity, but it's almost to the point where I will do it to the detriment of myself.
And that's the bit, yeah.
Yeah, and I know, I get it. I get what you're saying, but it still doesn't fit. Still doesn't fit right with me.
So this book, Carl, have a read. All right. And there's 2 quotes I want to tell you. One that says, "Do not live to satisfy the expectations of others." That's one. And the next one, "A healthy feeling of inferiority is not something that comes from comparing oneself to others. It comes from the comparison with one's ideal self." And basically, you're putting them 2 together for me. Think about how you're trying to please everybody, right? I'm trying to put this into context here, if anybody wants to jump in. For me, basically, I've been where you are, and I've wanted to please everybody, and that was what I was seeing from people, because I've done it for so long. That's what I was seeing when people expected from me. The moment I said no is the moment I realised that it's me that's important here. If I'm going out at 12 o'clock and I've got to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm going out at 1 o'clock at night to pick somebody up from their night out, that's going to affect my productivity for tomorrow. And my productivity for tomorrow is going to not be there, and my mind's not going to be there. That means I'm going to be in a bad mood, and that's going to make my immediate circle of friends, family, or whatever unhappy. The moment I turned around to that person and said no, I woke up the next day fresh, ready, and a happy person.
Yeah. And sometimes it's that very act of saying no that we find so uncomfortable. So one of the first things I teach my clients is a 4-word phrase. You don't say no, you say, unfortunately, that's not possible. The recipient will hear the word no, but you haven't said it. And you don't have to, when you say no to somebody in whichever context, you don't actually have to then explain yourself with a little story as to why you can't pick somebody up from a night out. It's just, unfortunately, that's not possible. And that's enough.
Yeah, perhaps this is something I'm going to have to take to one of my sessions that I have.
I think this is practice, Carl.
Mate, it's a life changer, I tell you, mate. I've been where you are. Obviously, I don't, the side of things that you suffer from, I'm not that extreme, but the people pleasing, the mental health, I've been there, right? And this week has been a shit week for me, pardon the language. It's been a rubbish week, and I felt really down. Tonight, having this conversation has just made me feel 10 times better.
Right, can I ask you, let me challenge you, Ryan. You said it's been a shit week.
Right.
Is that 24/7 for 7 full days, every minute of every day?
I'm breathing, I'm still walking, so no.
So it isn't. And I want you to seriously afterwards look at it and think, okay, on that day, that was crap for a couple of hours, and it was maybe an hour there and a half an hour there. And then instead of thinking it was for a full week, think, right, I've had 7 or 8 really not very good hours this week.
It's not 100%, it's 20%. I know what you're saying, exactly what you're saying.
It's the Pareto rule, exactly right.
Yeah. And it shows you, Carl, that, it still affects me. It will still affect Jane. It will affect Susan.
Yeah.
Susan's on mute.
That's making a lot of noise. So.
All right. Okay. No worries. I know. It's a tough one, mate. And hello. I'm saying no to you. Is that all right? Dog won't let me say no. But no, Carl, it's a tough one, bud. And and I'm not saying don't say no to everyone, but think of number one. Think of yourself, because the moment you start doing that, it's oh dear, just seen your top, oh dear, just seen your football top. Didn't realise you was a Chelsea fan.
He's not.
I'm a football fan.
All right.
He's a ram. We'll let him off.
So I'll share a story with you. Well, that's not a story. It's a life lesson. Several years ago, I organised a family fun day, and I won't tell you who it was for, but it was for a group of people, and I had people travelling from all over the UK, literally Kent, Leeds, Sheffield, Rotherham, and Milton Keynes and Reading. They were travelling from all over, and there was maybe about 50 people, and the weather was forecast as bad. So I said, we'll have to transfer and go a buffet in a pub or something. And the organisation said, no, we'll not do that. So I said, well, I'll fund it myself. I ended up funding it myself, and I did it because I didn't want to let everybody down. And I look back now, I didn't get any thanks for doing that.
No.
It didn't make me feel any better for doing that.
And I want to know why you was responsible for the weather.
It was just, I felt an obligation to all these people. And I felt that people had booked hotel rooms in Derby to come for the event and stuff. And I was like, I didn't want it to be on my head. So I felt that pressure, which nobody else had put on me. I felt it upon myself. It was a few years ago. It was about 4 years ago. But that's the type of thing that I've done. The level of this fear of letting people down, being disliked, whatever you want to call it, it runs deep, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
For me, what? Sorry, Susan, carry on.
It's these they're habits, Carl, and as James says, they run deep. When we've been exercising these habits for a long time, they become a part of us, and we don't even realize and recognize what we're doing half the time, which only further embeds and reinforces these practices, which can be detrimental to obviously ourselves. And eventually they can be so wearing, and the energy that it takes to maintain it, keeping everyone else happy, is enormous. Because as Jane was saying, we actually have no control whatsoever over how other people are going to respond. You know, they're looking at what is happening through their own lenses, through, you know, years of whatever experiences they've had. So we can never anticipate how somebody is going to respond to us anyway, you know, and a lot of the time they might surprise you if we give them the opportunity and explain more about what's going on, you know, and look for other options. But we've just got to start somewhere, and you are already demonstrating that you're becoming aware, and awareness is the first step, because from here on you'll recognize opportunities that come up where you might have automatically have said yeah or whatever, you know, and gone into your auto response. So, you know, it could be something that you trial and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm good to go. I'm going to read that book of Ryan's.
Yeah,
Do it,
I
mate.
think
Do it. It's a game changer. It really is, buddy. And it is, the title is The Courage to Be Disliked, and it was on off chance that I seen it, and it just spoke to me, and I was like, it cost me about £4 or £5, and it was just like one of the best books I've ever read.
if something speaks to you, it speaks to you.
Mm.
And I think I'm a firm believer in the fact that we see what we need when we need it.
Mm.
And you saw that just when you needed it.
Thanks, we had this video session just when I needed it.
You obviously did. But how, whilst you are gaining courage in being, you know, in giving somebody the opportunity to dislike you, that's just what we're doing now. We are opening ourselves up to the universe. We don't know who's going to see these when we are allowing them. Let's be fair, we're allowing people into our homes, into our lives, hoping that sharing of our experiences is going to help. So we are doing that right this minute. So if you don't feel like you've even took one step yet, Carl, you have.
Yeah.
Don't look so happy about it then, darling.
It's daunting.
This takes
It's-
courage.
It's very courageous. Yeah.
It's daunting, mate. You've spent a lifetime suffering with your mental health. You've spent a lifetime of dealing with your inner demons. You've said you're a people pleaser, and you've only known like us for a couple of weeks. And the amount that you've spoke about and the story that you took us on is amazing, right? And that isn't going to be for everyone. Some people are going to think, plum. But you know what? That's not your responsibility. That's not for you to get them to like you. Your problem, but your concern is you. And opening us up to us and letting us be on that journey, mate, it's unreal. And for you now to step out and say that you want to take this next step, and not the courage to be disliked, but to start saying no, it's something else, mate. You're putting yourself first, which is even better.
It does. It's opened my eyes. When we talked about what we're going to talk about today, when you said it, I was like, "Ooh, that doesn't fit right."
It doesn't, mate. It doesn't.
Discomfort.
Well, that's why I'm
straight
here.
away.
That's why I'm here. This is a journey for all of us, and
Definitely.
well,
You know.
I'm afraid we're now running out of time. We've got 2 minutes left. Is there anything that anybody would like to say?
For me, guys, just put yourself first. You know, don't worry about what everybody else thinks about you. If you know, as long as you're doing everything right and you're legal and you're putting yourself first and you're making yourself happy, have the courage to be disliked.
Susan?
Yeah, I run a Wellbeing for Life group, and funnily enough, our motto is, after me, you shall be first.
Well, for me, if you don't like me, I'll live with it.
Carl?
I'm taking Jane's. I like that. If you don't like me, I'll live with it.
Have the courage, mate. The courage to be disliked. Beautiful.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you.
All the
And we'll
best.
see you all again. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night. Right, there we go. We've stopped recording.
Okay. Nice one, guys.
Oh, wait, it's still recording.